Good afternoon. Good afternoon to my Italian friends, and greetings to the ones who are watching us from abroad. It's nice to meet you. Yesterday it was Halloween, we are still in the mood. And today we are going to enjoy some very good ghost stories and legends from one of the most ghastly and charming towns in Europe, that's Prague. I personally visited Prague, and when I visited the town, I also bought this book. Do you see it? It's a very nice book. It's a book with pictures, but sadly I think you can buy it only if you visit the Ghost Museum in Prague, the Museum of Ghosts. That's actually for tourists who want to know more about ghost legends in Prague. There are very ghastly stories here. It's a reading I recommend, and we will read only some of these stories because they are really a lot. Okay, do you hear my voice properly? First of all, let's see who has joined us. Hello, Foto a Caso. Hello, Foto a Caso. Nice to see you. Thank you for having joined us. I think there will be more people, but we should begin now because it's already a little late. We should have begun at 3 o'clock in the evening, not in the morning. So we are already late. Okay. I see new people. Okay, I don't know your name, but I see you have liked the live, so thank you. I hope you will be in the mood to send some presents too. They will be appreciated. Okay, let's go. So, Prague, a town full of ghost legends. This book classifies legends following the streets and the places. Okay, no co-hosting, please. What was I saying? Okay, this book classifies ghost legends on the basis of the place where they are set. The places in Prague, the streets, the houses, the monasteries. Why are people inviting me to co-host? Okay, I'm definitely not co-hosting this, and I don't co-host a live stream unless I have agreed with someone before. Okay, I see many people. Hello Massimo Bombolo, hello Mattacchiona. I hope you will enjoy this. Okay, let's read the first story. The first story is from Bratislavova Street. Bratislavova Street on Vyšehrad Hill. In this place there is a haunted house. What's a ghost legend without a haunted house after all? Let's read about this haunted house in Prague. It is the case that there are often more ghosts in houses that stand on the site of the former cemeteries. Well, that's a classical story. This is true of the house at the foot of Vyšehrad, where several female ghosts play with all colors and even more strange spirits. The first spirit is a flat dog, which is in the form of a leather doormat. Okay, a leather doormat shaped as a dog? Okay, someone could like it actually. Please take notes if you are planning to redecorate your house. When the door is closed, it is wailing and howling until someone opens the door. Oh, poor dog, poor little pet. If the frightened inhabitant of the house only looks out and does not enter the corridor, the dog remains silent and waits until the door is closed again. But when someone steps on this haunted rug, a fled dog stands up and escapes howling. There is no sign of him for a few weeks, and then it appears lying at the door again. However, by that time, there is usually a different tenant, because the frightened one usually moves away within a week. Oh, why to be frightened? You only needed to throw a bone to this poor doggy. Oh. Another ghost is the white tangle with crutches. Okay. This is the spirit of a poor crippled woman, Fanny Wayran, who lived in this house and complained about her fate every day. Well, perhaps you are wondering why in a Czech house, in a Czech town, there was a woman with an English name, but of course people travel. People travel and perhaps they live abroad, so perhaps we should not be so surprised. Because she died without being conciliated with the Lord and people, she must haunt this house and hope for reconciliation. There is also the pink virgin. Okay, virgins are usually white, I think, but also pink is a very nice color. She selects only men for her apparition, so how can she be still a virgin? Okay, she selects only men for her apparition and they later die of sorrow after meeting with her. She is the spirit of a girl who loved a nasty bakelor who was troubling her deeply. He had stayed with her for a few months, confessed her love, and carried her around in his arms. Then he disappeared again for many long days. Oh, that scoundrel! The poor girl was withering like a meadow flower in a vase, and cried the whole time he was away. Once he had not returned for months, and when he finally came home, he found his girlfriend lying on the bed in a pink dress, in the pool of tears she had shed for him. Okay, so you can see what happens when you are late, when you come back home. Don't come back home too late, please. Overnight, you can also meet a white woman. Oh, finally, someone I recognize. A white woman who is looking for her child drowned in the well, and also the avid woman who captures children whose parents bring them up in great luxury. Perhaps she captures the children from a fear that they would become spoiled rascals, maybe out of a desire for wealth. Okay, so after all, she's a good woman. She's concerned about the education of children. She should be praised. Okay, I'm joking, of course. Let's see if someone has written to us. Okay, I see no messages, but there are a lot of flowers and hearts. Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Marwa. I remember you. Thank you. Among the cute ghosts belongs Rosie with a purple lantern, which even after death tries to defy her neighbors' rumors about the fact that all their belongings had been given to the rich and greedy landlady. When Rosie unexpectedly died of fever, the landlady immediately wrote a false will, according to which everything should belong to her. That's not legal. She burst into Rosie's apartment and took everything except a small purple lantern that seemed worthless. In this lamp was hidden Rosie's testament, saying that all her property should be dedicated to a nearby orphanage. That would be interesting to find this lamp again. If that was not enough, apart from strange creatures, strange noises can also be heard in the house. In the attic, rattling bones can be heard at noon. At noon? That's strange. If the sound could be heard in the cellar at night, it might be the bones from the abolished cemetery. The only explanation is that a capital crime had been committed there at noon in the attic. If not, everything is preposterous and again all ghostly traditions. It's what I think myself. Okay. So we have read about a haunted house. Of course, there are plenty of haunted houses in ghost legends. This doesn't surprise us. It's always interesting to see how houses carry stories. It's because many people live there for generations, or through generations, I should say, and people actually live and create interesting stories, real stories to be told. Let's see if someone has sent. Okay, I had seen a notification on the video, but oh, 1,200 hearts. You're so kind. You're so kind. Should you send some presents or some stars? They will be appreciated as well. Okay. We have told about a haunted house on Visegrad, but the most famous house, or haunted house, if you want, in Prague is Faust's house, Dr. Faust's house. How can we forget it? You, of course, know about Dr. Faust, who sold his soul to the devil to obtain knowledge and immortality. Well, that's the usual story about an alchemist. But let's read about his house. It hasn't got only one owner, so we may expect more legends about it. Interestingly, some buildings have been attracting the same kind of people over the centuries. This is the case of the so-called Faust's house, which sorry guys, okay, which stood in its location even before the new town was built. It was a place where the old Slavic sacred grove of the Morana goddess stood, and had always been home to eccentric men, magicians, and alchemists. Okay, perhaps you don't know the Slavic goddess Morana. She's the goddess of death and winter. She's the goddess of dying nature. You know, in this season, nature is going to die. Nature doesn't give anything to man. It doesn't give its products. So mankind risks and can starve. And this season has a goddess, Morana, the dying nature and death itself. So perhaps it's not a good idea to go and live in the place where there was the sacred grove of Morana. This maybe explains why Faust's house has always been inhabited by very, 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 very gloomy people. The most famous legend is linked to Johann Faust, who, according to the legend, lived here during his Prague visit and was subsequently taken to hell by the devil himself. In order to do so, the devil escaped the house with the captured sinner through the ceiling and roof, leaving a huge hole that couldn't be repaired for many years. This house was inhabited by other famous men as well. For instance, the alchemist Magister Edward Kelly, who lived here in 1590, or Joseph Mladotta of Solpisky, another avid upholder of the metaphysical arts. By the end of the 18th century, the house was rented to a certain baron who had moved his entire library full of magic books and alchemical tools and gadgets. The hole in the roof could be repaired for the first time during his stay. The bricklayers were afraid of a hellish revenge, but their greed for money prevailed over their fear, especially when the Baron took the leather-bound grimoire and helped them with their task. Okay, who says magic is unuseful? Through these deeds, he became famous as a magician, which was not a purely positive assessment in the past. To improve his reputation, he decided to present his spells to the burghers of Prague. He began to organize magical performances, which bemused the townsfolk rather than scared them. A strange thing happened once to him. The lady in black came to see his performance one night. She was sitting among the audience, and the Baron was uncomfortable with it, especially when the servant told him that no person of a matching description was present. This evening was cursed for the Baron. He spoiled most of the spells and tricks. Suddenly, the mysterious woman stood up, turned herself into the Baron's doppelganger, his double, and started to cast the most horrifying spells. Skeletons danced in the room while the music sounded, and spectators soon fled in horror. It would have been the perfect Halloween show. When the Baron asked her who she was, she said she was the King of Wizards. Not even the Queen, the King, okay, even if she was a woman. That evening the Baron came down sick with fear that Satan himself had visited him, and he did not want to have anything to do with magic once he was cured. So, well, the King of all Wizards visits you, it's a great honor, and you are scared and sick. Well, it's so ungrateful of him. Okay, let's see if someone has written to us. No. But thank you for all the hearts. Another story tells the tale of a young student who decided to sleep here because he was fearless and didn't believe the rumors about ghosts and spirits in Faust's house. In the morning, he found a golden coin on the dish at the alchemical lab. He stayed for the second and for the third night, and he gathered quite a fortune. Anyway, he spent the coins in no time, and eventually he sold his soul to the devil for more gold. Okay, it's what happens when you gain money for nothing, actually. It wasn't a good idea, obviously, as the devil collected the soul very quickly. The hole in the roof was revealed one more time when the Allied Air Force bombed Prague in World War II. The hole in the roof was revealed one more time when the Allied Air Force bombed Prague in World War II because of a navigation mistake. The roof received a direct hit, but the bomb itself didn't explode, leaving the house relatively unharmed. And so, this is magic. People say that Faust's house is protected by 7 cats walled in the building. Oh, poor cats, poor kitties. How can you wall them? But that's cruel. Actually, plenty of ghost legends are about walled people. Okay, it's a torture that actually existed. Perhaps you remember the nun of Monza. She actually was almost walled. She was closed in this very, very narrow cell, and a wall was built to prevent her from going out. So it was a very monk-styled kind of torture. And now perhaps it's the time to talk about monasteries, because Prague, of course, had monasteries like any historical town, and they seem to be the most dangerous places. The most dangerous places in these kind of legends. Okay. Let's see if someone has something to say. Okay. I am greeting some people who have taken place to this live stream. However, welcome to anyone who has entered the live stream now. I appreciate the fact you are here. Okay, but let's go on. Monasteries. So it's about monasteries. Monasteries are full of ghosts and devils and whatever kind of creepy creature. One couldn't believe it, since monasteries should be sacred places, holy places. But you know, when there's God in a place, often there is also the devil. So let's read about ghosts in monasteries, ghosts and devils. And this legend is called Devil in the Monastery Kitchen. Sorry for a second. I'll be back in no time. Okay, I just needed a second for myself, but now I'm here again. The monks of Emausi monastery used to be so devoted to God that hell itself could not stand it. The devils tried to seduce the monks, but even though they tried their best, the brethren always just crossed themselves, like this, not indulging in any wrongdoing. Oh, good boys. One of the smallest devils wanted to try his luck one day and enrolled in the cloister kitchen. By the way, it was a common belief that devils stayed in kitchens, because in kitchens there were fireplaces, and fireplaces are nice to devils. Fireplaces remind them of hell itself, so they are comfortable there. so it was believed. He had some poisoned the cook, and he managed to take his position. Instead of a strictly ascetic diet, he began to cook a much richer diet. Oh, a devil who can cook. That's nice. Meat was added to the food, and the drinking water was packed with wine, so the monks began to fatten, their faces reddening with a delight. It was the moment when the devil began to weave the images of beautiful and lustful maidens into their dreams. Well, that's another kind of good meat, after all. Sorry for the bad joke. But I'm a ghost and I'm evil, so you'll have to endure a lot of dark humor. The visions were only visions after all, and no committed sins could be expected. But the devils hoped that the monks could bestow themselves to sin outside the monastery wall. The little devil had something special for the abbot. He already turned to a sin by having a picture of Saint Mary Magdalene in his cell when he had imagined at the time when she was still a sinner. Okay, that's so dangerous to have pictures of saint women in monasteries. They are saints, but they are also beautiful women. You shouldn't look upon them too much. The devil was sending him the visions in his dreams, showing him Saint Mary Magdalene progressively more and more exposed. One day Mary Magdalene spoke to him, saying, "Next week, on my saint's day, I will come out of the frame and we will make love." He wasn't comfortable with the promise, but so was the little devil. He had promised the abbot something he could not deliver. So he flew to hell at night seeking counsel, and the wise hell book sent him to the witch who gave him magical berries. She told the devil that if he spread the berries onto the lips of the portrait, it would come to life. Lucifer wanted to witness this spectacular deed himself, so he traveled back to the monastery with the little devil. But there was a big mistake. As the little devil and his hellish master arrived at the monastery, the abbot, nervously passing through the corridors, eavesdropped their conversation. The devils agreed what they would do with the monks, and they brought the image of Mary Magdalene to life, planning to take the abbot straight to hell after he sinned. But the infuriated abbot grabbed the cingulum and flogged both unholy creatures with such frenzy that they fled through the ceiling and roof back to hell in seconds flat. Interestingly, the ceiling hole here, like the hole in Faust's house, is connected with the devil himself in both legends. Why should one have a hole connected to hell itself in a monastery? That's nonsense. Okay, let's go on. Even more interesting is the fact that the monastery was hit by a bomb during the air raid on 14th February 1945 as well. Okay, it was a St. Valentine's Day. That's not nice to throw bombs on St. Valentine's Day. That's another nonsense. What kind of a St. Valentine present is this? Okay. Anyway, Emausi Monastery was not as lucky as Faust's house. The bomb exploded, and today, instead of the beautiful Gothic towers, the front of the temple is roofed by modern twin towers called the donkey ears. Okay. But the name is not perceived as disrespectful. Christ himself allegedly entered Jerusalem riding a donkey, so it's completely fine for a monastery to be adorned with donkey ears. Okay, that sounds sensible. Oh wow, there is a beautiful picture of the cook devil. You see it? Pictures on this book are amazing and very old-fashioned, but in a good sense. Sorry if I often don't look into your eyes, but it's because it's difficult to find the right spot to watch to when I'm on live stream. Okay, let's read another story about monks, but this isn't about lust sin. This is about a very different kind of sin, and this has got no happy ending. Monks turned into dogs in Václavská Street. 3 black dogs appear at the Emausi Monastery and Václavská Street, and together with them the former abbot of the monastery. Emausi Monastery was built on an old pagan burial site, and it happened from time to time that a skeleton came up to the surface. Of course, it was a Christian habit in the Middle Age to sanctify pagan sacred places by building churches and monasteries on them, but this time it seems not to have been such a good idea. But the monks had no mercy with the pagans, and they threw their bones to wild dogs. The abbot did not approve of such behavior, because he said that even pagans were people, and shouted at the monks, "The devil should take you to hell because you are worse than the dogs." The devil interpreted his words as an encouragement and turned the monks into dogs. Since that time, they have been running around together with the abbot, who is trying to gather them, but they seem to be really disobedient and keep running away. So they were worse than dogs, and they weren't good even as dogs. Okay, complete disaster. They can be freed only by somebody who brings them to the abbot with the help of the cross, but it can be a real burden, because hardly ever is anyone wearing a cross these days. And there's another interesting picture. These are the monks turned into dogs. Oh, sorry. Sorry, just a moment. So this was a story about monks who disrespected the bones of dead people, not recognizing them as people because they were pagans, and they were punished for this lack of piety. Okay, I think this is a very moral story. Sometimes ghost stories can teach us some moral values. They aren't made only to scare us. Let's see which story we can read. Are you enjoying this streaming so far? Of course, I'm sorry I have made the video move. It's just because a little accident here. I'll be more careful. Okay, we have talked about ghost stories with a moral message. Ghost stories can be created to make people think about their behavior and also to denounce crimes. Can be created to make people think about their behavior and also to denounce crimes. Perhaps to denounce rape and its consequences. Ghost legends were born. Sorry, I have to do a thing. I have received some flares and I'm trying to take them. Okay. By the way, thanks to the ones who sent flares. Okay. Let's go back to our stories. Okay, I had some flares to take. Thank you if you have sent them. This is only my third live stream on TikTok, so I'm not very familiar with some things yet. Okay, unlock presents. What's this? Okay, that's nice. Perhaps some of them, perhaps some of you know this kind of things about live streams better than I do. Of course, feel free to explain me if you know and if you want. Okay, yeah. Hello to the ones who have reached us, especially Alfredo Maria, M, and Regina. Nice to see you. We were saying that ghost stories can denounce crimes. They can denounce how innocent people are wronged. And they are also about rape. Ghost legends were born in times where rape was considered as a victim's fault. And it also happens nowadays. Also nowadays, many girls and women who have been victims of rape are blamed because they did not behave well according to their accusers. And this is a great injustice. People sometimes were aware of this injustice. They were aware that victim blaming was unfair, and so they created this kind of ghost legends, like the one about the poor raped girl in Velkoprzewoske Square. It is true that the cowl makes a monk, but this does not mean that being a monk means to be an honest man, and so often the cowl covers a sinner. So it's about monks again. It seems that monks are very popular in scary stories, as we have already said. Perhaps it's because of their cowls that actually look like a ghastly costume. But perhaps it's also because there is a much hypocrisy behind a saintly face. Once, a small group of monks, drunk on sacramental wine, raped a young girl at the Velkoprzewoske Square. At that time, the event was perceived as a shame on the girl more than shame on the monks. Oh, monks were good men. She was the one who failed. She was the one who didn't protect her virtue. You know. The ashamed girl drowned herself in the nearby Rosenberg mill run, later known as Chertovka. She still walks through the large square in a wet robe around midnight, just like the poor timid Aneshka, haunting the nearby grounds. By the way, I don't know anything about Aneshka because I haven't read the whole book yet, but I guess it's another girl ghost. Her hair is matted as the monks let her lie under the plane tree crying. Before she met the monks, she had an appointment with her lover, who had asked her to marry him earlier that evening. So, poor girl and poor boy too. Okay, that's really heartbreaking. So if you see a ghost, remember that probably that ghost is denouncing an injustice. Let's go on to Charles Bridge, Karlov Most, the most famous bridge in Prague over the Vltava, or Moldava if you prefer. That's the river that crosses Prague. It's also a beautiful bridge, an astonishing one. Okay, an astonishing one. So if you go to Prague, please visit it. It's worth visiting. It's something you can't miss if you are in Prague. Let's read about the swords at the Charles Bridge. When you say the famous sword from the Charles Bridge, everybody who has heard the legend knows what you are talking about. The legend says that if Saint Václav grasps the sword and swings it around, all the heads of the enemies of Czech lands would fall. By the way, Saint Václav is the saint patron of Bohemia and of Prague. But there are a few various legends about its origin. It might have been the sword of the pagan god Perun, who used to stand at the place of the Brunvik's statue and was casted together with his sword to the Vltava river. Okay, the Slavic god Perun was the god of lightnings and of the sky, so perhaps this sword was the lightning he sent from the sky. King Przemysl Otakar II threw his sword to the Vltava river after the defeat of King Bela to be prepared for another famous victory, and Saint Václav would definitely use his own sword to protect the country. The legend has changed a bit a century ago. It was the first Christmas when the Czech lands were betrayed by the world and captured by Germans. It was on Christmas Eve and thousands of Prague citizens came to St. Vitus Cathedral together with their children to gather around the graves of Czech patrons. By the way, St. Vitus Cathedral is Prague's cathedral. It's a very astonishing Gothic church, so it's another place to visit. They wanted their children to remember the national tradition. It started to snow during midnight mass and nobody wanted to go home alone. The sad procession, absorbed in their thoughts, led by children, went over to the Charles Bridge and suddenly something glittered in the snow. A sword! A boy with a pom-pom cap leaned and hardly managed to lift the ancient weapon in its scabbard, inlaid with precious gems. The news spread among the children, and the boy hid the sword under his coat. Hundreds of children gathered at Kempa the next day. The boy showed them the sword, and everybody became silent and took their caps off. They started to discuss what to do with the sword, and finally they came to the conclusion that they should do what was said in the legend. The sword should be pulled out from the scabbard to cut off the heads of their enemies. So it's so useful to find the sword in the right moment. Okay, it's been a luck. The sword should... Okay, but however, they tried, and whatever they did not manage to pull the sword out. Oh, it's like King Arthur's story. It seems there is always a sword to take out from something. Another boy came with a different suggestion that the sword should be used by Saint Václav, and it appeared because it was not safe in the bridge anymore. The boy was wise, and everybody thought he was right. Whenever the enemies came to Prague, they would lean from the legends about its protection. The Swedish shot at the cross and the statue of Brunswick protecting the Czech lands, and it seemed only logical that the Germans would have searched the bridge to find the sword and got rid of the Czech protection. The sword started to shine with joy that its wish was fulfilled. Since that time, the sword has no longer been hidden under the cobblestones of the bridge. For the fortune and future of the nation, it is no longer in the hard but breakable stone, but with our children. As you can understand, Bohemia's story and Prague's story as well wasn't peaceful. It's a history of wars, of enemies, German enemies, and also Scandinavian enemies, as we have read about the Swedish army. So this ghost sword held by a saint like Saint Václav was a story of hope. It was created by the hope for protection against all these wars and against all these enemies. It's also a way to show how Czechs and Bohemians, who are a group among Czechs, were always aware of their own cultural identity, even if they were among different people who were also enemies. I have finished reading the stories I had chosen for today, but we still have a quarter of an hour. If we want, then I'll have to go, unless you convince me to stay with some presents. Well, we could read about Perun, the cruel ruler of thunder. We have mentioned Perun, the Slavic god of thunder and lightning, so perhaps why not to know him better? This is a legend linked to the Vltava river, Prague's river. So let's read. The old statue of the pagan god Perun ended up in the deep water hole near the Charles Bridge. Okay, so just like the sword, we have just met, also Perun's statue was related to Charles Bridge. Christianity became the main religion, and all the statues of the pagan gods were cast to the river Vltava and Botich Creek. But the pagan gods did not want to give up so easily and kept reminding us of them. Perun was waiting in the Vltava depths for the moment when a shadow casted by a boat or ship emerged right above him. Then he drowned the people on the boat, and it did not matter if it was a fisherman, ferryman, or a pair of lovers. People started to avoid these places soon, and therefore Perun figured out a different revenge, tore down the wooden bridge, and many innocent Christians died. Perun was the god of tempests and storms, so he actually didn't care if someone was innocent, just like storms don't care. Judita's stone bridge was built instead of the wooden one, and Perun was therefore forced to climb on the bridge. Okay. Nobody was crossing the river. He did not manage to tear the bridge down and had to find a different way to get the souls. He convinced people that he was a wayfarer from the Holy Land, and his master was asking for a new baptism. They should have jumped from the bridge to the river to confirm their fate. Okay, this seems like an IQ test, more than a kind of baptism, but okay. And surprisingly, many of them were not clever enough, jumped to the river, and Perun gained his offering. Once he unexpectedly encountered a real wayfarer from the Holy Land. When he heard his foolish story, he touched him with a cross made of olive branch from Gethsemane garden. A flash lit out of the blue sky and broke the bridge arc. Perun fell into the river and his body was buried by stone to get rid of him for good. So the god of lightning has been hit by a lightning. Okay. To make sure he will never rise again, many statues of saints are placed on the bridge to secure the safety of the bridge and religion. Actually, if you cross Karlov Most, Charles Bridge, you see many statues of saints. Now you know why they are here. Perhaps they are substituting the statues of ancient gods. And it's also a protection since a bridge is a dangerous place. You may fall into the river even if there's no god Perun to wait for you. There shall never be peace in Perun's water hole. It is occupied by water nymph who asks for human sacrifice every year. If somebody drowns, she is satisfied until the solstice. But if she does not get what she demands, she raises the level of the Vltava river, as it happened not very long ago, and gets sacrifices for a few years in advance. Of course, we have to say that Prague has always been plagued by floods. The Vltava river is beautiful, is a beloved river, but it's also dangerous. Actually, in the Middle Age, a king had to raise the level of the streets in Prague to make it more safe in case of flood. So the river is seen as a living being that could flood the city, that puts the city in danger and that has to be feared. There are also legends about nymphs like this, also about watermen. There are also some Czech folk tunes about watermen, like this. Like this one, Holka Modroka, that warns a nice girl with blonde hair and blue eyes not to stay next to the river because the river is dangerous. She may fall. She may be taken by the watermen. So the Czechs and the inhabitants of Prague especially have a very complicated relationship with rivers. And we have seen also here, okay? We have 10 minutes. What can we read? Oh, let's stay on Charles Bridge for a while and read about the legend about Saint Jan Nepomucki. Actually, he's one of the main saints in Prague. And you can find his statue on Karlov Most, on Charles Bridge. The basis of this statue is a little erased, a little consumed, because people touch it to gain the saint's protection. It's like St. Peter's feet in Rome. A golden light was shining above the cradle of Jan Nepomucki on the day he was born. The same light appeared on the day when his body was cast into the Vltava river. Jan Nepomucki was a canon and confessor of Queen Zsofia. He fell out of favor with her husband, the King Václav IV. The reason might have been the appointment of a bishop, inconvenient to the king, or it could have been because he refused to disclose the confessional secrets of the queen. Jan Nepomucki was tortured, and his dead body was thrown to the river Vltava at the place of the cross with 5 stars. The same stars which were shining above his head when his body was pulled out of the water by local fishermen. They shone so brightly that it looked like the Vltava river was on fire. Numerous miracles had happened after his martyr's death. Anybody who wanted to damage his tomb lost their lives or got seriously ill. The dead came back to life. The sentenced were pardoned. It was also said that the tongue of the saint remained intact for many years. For the Christians, it was proof of his honor, because he did not disclose confessional secrets. People said he was able to hold his tongue. There are not many like him these days. I agree. He is the patron of fishermen, raftsmen, millers, and crafts that have something to do with water, guardian of the bridges and protector of the Czech lands against floods. Therefore, his statue has been placed on bridges and near rivers. So in Prague, we haven't had only fearing enemies, we haven't had only sinful monks, but we have already had some saints. But by the way, the cult of Jan Nepomucki was used by the church to replace the not worship, to replace the esteem that Bohemian people had for Jan Hus, the one who preached against the Catholic Church, the one who founded his own heresy, and who was held in great respect in Prague. Actually, there is also a statue of Jan Hus in Old Town Place, in Old Town Square, sorry. Perhaps we have talked about the Old Town Square. We could have the time to read another legend about a tragic story linked to that square, a story that's real, and linked to the tragical story of Bohemia. Okay, let's look for it. This book classifies stories following the several places where they are set. So let's see the Old Town. Steer's chamber, the house of the sinful priest, the grand Nicodemus, luck brought by a little grey mouse, and the Iron Man, the rich and mysterious spooky Kafka's ghosts! Oh God, there is Kafka's ghost! We have to read about this, even if we will go beyond the hour, but let's look for that other legend before. The origin, tribal skeleton prophets, the sad duty of Midlarge, the town headsman. Okay, perhaps this is the one. Because we have to talk about Jan Miklarge, the most famous. Okay, I don't know this word in English, but let's read the legends and we'll find it. Let's read about the sad duty of Midlarge, or Miklarge, the town headsman. Okay, headsman, the one who cut heads. He worked in Old Town Square because it was the main square in the Middle Age, and it was also the place for public executions. Midlarge was an honest man serving as the executioner in the old town of Prague. He sent many bad souls to meet their maker, and even though his profession was somewhat feared, all the citizens recognized Midlarge as an honest and wise man. Once Midlarge had to execute men who were his friends. This duty was especially hard for him, but he found comfort in the knowledge that he is the best and finest headsman in the Czech kingdom. Okay, it's a satisfaction. Victims' heads were chopped off by a single swing of the executioner's sword, and the poor man did not suffer at all. Okay, this isn't historically appropriate because Midlarge in reality was a cruel man who also created his own tortures for the poor condemned men, so he wasn't a sad, good man as they depict him in legends. But let's go on. Midlarge was often visited by the famous physician Dr. Jan Zvolský. They spent long evenings discussing the human body, and now all the bones and sinews are attached and so on over pints of beer. Mr. Headsman always wondered what exactly happens to the body right after the head is severed. Every time Mr. Zvolský parted with Midlarge, he received a parcel of human body parts for his research. Okay, that's a very spooky present, but actually physicians needed this kind of presents since it was difficult to find dead bodies to study anatomy. Okay, sorry, I had to take a flare. Even the body used for the famous first public dissection came from this source. Actually, Headsman had plenty of corpses for anatomy. But one day, a most unexpected thing happened. The executioner always kept his tools of the trade close to him. His sword hung directly on the wall next to the table. Once Jan Zvolský got seated just under the sword, which suddenly moved. Midlarge's eyes widened, then he glanced over at his friend's face. Zvolský wondered what was going on, but the headsman only said with a sad voice, "It feels the blood that belongs to him. I fear, Master Zvolský, that your throat will meet with my sword one day." All this happened before the year 1621. When Midlarge executed 27 Czech nobles in the old town square at the aftermath of Battle of White Mountain, including his friend Zvolský. And this was the battle I wanted to tell you about. It was a great battle between the Bohemian rebel noblemen and the forces of the emperor, of the German emperor. The sword moved once again. A young woman visited Midlarge with a baby. The kid had a toothache, and headsmen were known for curing such things with herbal potion pincers. Of course, a headman knew anatomy very well. He could also serve as a physician. As they entered the room, the sword moved. The woman got terrified, and Midlarge tried to comfort her. But she was aware about the story of Jan Zvolský and knew that her baby was marked for death. In despair, she fell down on her knees, begging Midlarge to spare her child in future. He told her, "If the day comes and this innocent kid strays from the true path, and I will be ordered to behead him by law, I will not hesitate. But now I'll do everything to prevent him taking the wrong path in life." He took the boy into his arms and cut his little hand slightly with the executioner's blade. It's a pretty strange way to avoid that someone takes the wrong path in life, but perhaps it works. A few drops of blood appeared, and headsman said, "Maybe this will satisfy my blade and quench its thirst for the boy's blood, so the boy will be safe when he grows up." And really, the boy became a respectable burgher who lived long after Midlarge was gone. Okay, it was scary, but it worked. What is this? Montessori education? Well, okay, an hour has passed. I see you have all been so kind, and that you have sent plenty of hearts. 1,400 hearts. Oh, that's so kind of you. So perhaps I'll say you goodbye with the last story, and we'll read about Kafka's ghost. So we are in Prague. We have to tell about Kafka. So he's become a ghost as well. Once, a strange writer lived in Prague. He lived in one of the oldest places in old Prague. Although he was a Jew, he lived next to a Christian temple. Sometimes he moved into a former nest of alchemists in Golden Lane. In these places, he created his eternal novels, tangled with sadness. Okay, Kafka's childhood house is in old town square, and it's near to the church of Saint Mary of Teen, and that's the Christian church we are talking of. It's a beautiful Gothic church in the peculiar Gothic style you can see in Prague. So it's another thing to visit. When he felt death coming around, he asked his friend, Max Brod, to burn all his novels after his death, to let no man look into his soul. But his friend was sorry for the awesome manuscripts, and instead of burning them, he took them all to the printer. Since then, Francis' spirit comes from time to time, reminding him that his soul, observed by hundreds of people around the world every day, has no peace. Oh, poor Franz, I can understand you. That's clearly a violation of your privacy. And because he has no peace to this day, he's cursed to walk through the old city at night forever, or until people forget to read. I'm sorry, Franz, I don't think I will stop reading your novels and tales, because they are exceptional. You should be proud to be read in the whole world. But if you cross Prague at night, if you cross all the town square at night, please enjoy it, because it's extraordinary. I'd like to meet you there, you know. It would be nice, but I'm afraid I don't believe in real ghosts. So we have had our fun with fictional ghosts, with legendary ghosts. It was a very nice time. It was the right way to spend the day after Halloween, at least for me. I hope you have enjoyed it as well. And now, if you haven't anything to say, I say you goodbye and see you on the next TikTok live. See you and thank you.